NCAA March Madness is coming to St. Louis. Experience it live.
Oh, brings it home.
As 8 of the top collegiate teams compete for a shot at the NCAA Sweet 16. Don't miss the buzzer beaters. As Cinderellas crash the party at the 2014 NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship. March 21st and 23rd at the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/MBB tickets.
Show your school spirit and make all the difference. Sport your team's colors at the MVC tournament and get great seats for as little as $12 a session. Just $12. Don't miss the 2014 Missouri Valley Conference Women's Basketball Tournament at the Family Arena in St. Charles, Missouri. Show your school spirit and get your tickets now. It begins here.
Ollie for three. Down goes Kansas.
It begins here.
Say it slowly. Wichita State is going to the Final Four.
The madness starts at the Arch. Don't miss the 2014 Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament, March 6th through 9th at Scott Trade Center. Get your tickets and get to St. Louis for Arch Madness. It begins here.
Conference Men's Basketball Coaches Teleconference. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you would like to ask a question during the conference, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. I will now turn the call over to Mike Kern. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Bonnie, and we'll go ahead and get right to it. We have one game today. Evansville playing at Missouri State at 7 o'clock Central tonight, and then 4 league games will take place tomorrow. Our first coach on today's call is Ben Jacobson of Northern Iowa. The Panthers are at Bradley tomorrow night and then at Loyola on Saturday. Morning, Coach.
Yeah, good morning, Mike.
Let's talk about your Bradley game, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, we obviously taken a real good look at what they've done here the last 4 or 5 games, and you know they're defending at a really high level, aggressive in terms of how they're guarding on the ball, defending the ball screen, and then they're rebounding at a very high level as well, and they seem to be playing in transition a little bit more, which certainly fits their team. I just think Walt is so good in the open floor and so good when he's able to get into transition, and so we've got, you know, as I've talked about before with Bradley, we've got to do a great job of trying to keep them out of transition, and that includes our offense and not allowing them to get steals high on the floor, and then being able to get back on missed shots and somehow keep them out of the lane. So, but I really impressed with how they're defending and rebounding right now.
Thanks, Jake. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions for you now. Questions from the media for Coach Ben Jacobson.
To ask Coach a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Hi, Coach. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about is Northern Iowa games now have a different look and feel this season in terms of its higher scoring game, like the other day with Missouri State, and you now are a team that can win when giving up 80 points. And I want to ask, how do you feel about that, or does it feel unusual to you since you're such known as a hard-nosed defensive program?
Yeah, well, no question that it's different, and there's parts of it, Andrew, that I like quite a bit. You know, our offense in the open floor and our offense in transition has been very good for us this year, and being able to get points in a hurry or put together 3-4 minute stretches where we can get a lot of points on the board has really helped us be a better basketball team this past month. The reason that we've won more games in the past month than we did in the month before, though, is because our defense and our rebounding has improved. And what I can tell you is that we still have a lot of room for improvement at the defensive end of the floor, and in terms of rebounding. And I talked with the guys about it yesterday. You know, we have to work to get a little more hard-nosed when it comes to making plays in defensive transition and making plays in rebounding. And if we're able to do that, if we're able to take another big step forward at the defensive end and in rebounding and combine that with some of the things we're doing on offense, Andrew, then we can feel like we've got a chance to win each time we play. But, you know, right now we're not where we need to be from a defensive and rebounding standpoint, so we're still a little bit inconsistent.
And as far as you talked about getting the ball up the floor and scoring quicker, how much of that falls on Dion and Wes, and how have they improved maybe as a season? You know, taking on that role of setting the tempo and getting you guys down the floor quick.
Yeah, I don't look at stats much, and I don't look at numbers very often. But one of the things that would be easy to point to in terms of Wes and Dion and their development over the course of this year and adjusting to how we're playing is their assist-to-turnover ratio in non-conference play, and then look at it in conference play, and their numbers are drastically different in our 6 conference games from an assist-to-turnover standpoint. And I think 2 things: one, they're playing better, and also we have more guys that are making more shots, but their turnover numbers are down, and that I think that's a result of playing together. Wes obviously has been a point guard his entire career, and now he's been off the ball for us, and so there is a little bit of an adjustment there. And then from a group standpoint, we've got 3 new starters and have all year, even though Nate just replaced Chip. Chip was a new starter for us this year. So the group has learned, I think, how to play a little bit faster. And that, as you mentioned, and people know, that's different than how we've played. But the reason that we're doing it is it fits our personnel. We've got big guys that can run, and we've got 2 guards right now that are good in transition.
Well, all right. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Dave Reynolds of the Peoria Journal-Star.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, good morning, Dave.
Wanted to ask you about Nate Buss. Drew his first start against Missouri State and obviously responded with that 26-point game. Can you just take me through your mindset as far as inserting him into the lineup and what he brings to your team, and if you're going to continue to go that way here tomorrow night?
Yeah, he will be in the starting lineup tomorrow. And, a couple of things in putting him into the starting lineup this past weekend, Dave. He had such a good stretch in non-conference play coming off the bench for us that I kind of liked, leaving him on the bench and having to be the guy who can come in and get points for us. The other, our defense and rebounding, it was not very consistent. Still work to do there, but much better than it was a month ago. And I felt and still feel that we needed Chip Rank in that starting lineup from a communication standpoint, an experience standpoint, a guy who's going to do all the right things from a scouting report standpoint. And with Wes and Jeremy Morgan and Nate Buss being inexperienced guys, that was the lineup I felt best about to improve our defense and rebounding so we could get consistent. So we stayed with that for a long time. And then, Nate's played okay in conference games, but he hadn't really played at the level he did in 6 or 7 of the non-conference games. So I just felt like the time was right because we're a little more consistent at the defensive end, and this was maybe a chance to get Nate back to where he had played in some of the non-conference games.
Okay, thank you.
Coach, that was your final question. Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, Mike.
All right, see you then.
Bye.
Let's go next to Coach Ray Giacoletti of Drake. Drake has 2 games this week, of course, playing at Southern Illinois tomorrow night and back at home against 4th-ranked Wichita State on Saturday. Morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Good. Let's open it up for some questions for you. Questions for Coach Giacoletti. Bulldogs playing at Southern Illinois tomorrow night.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Hi, Coach. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. I wanted to ask you, how valuable, when you look at the stats with Seth Van Diest, in about 18 minutes of playing time, he gets you 5 points and 4 rebounds. How valuable is to be able to get him on the floor? And then also Jacob coming in playing about the same amount of minutes, and his stats are pretty similar. So how is that rotation going, and how do you see that evolving?
I think Seth's been great for Jacob, just helping him being a 5th-year senior. Obviously we're kind of week to week with Seth, just how he's able to how his body's feeling, how he's able to practice that week. And so it's kind of a little bit every day. It's something different. During the week of practice, Jacob's getting the majority of the reps because Seth's one day on, one day off, and it's really hard, I think, to get him in sync with our team, just with the limited practice that he has. But I mean, Seth's going to give you an unbelievable effort. It's just the situation we're in. It's not going to be because of it's a lack of effort or anything like that. It's just it's hard to get a cohesive group just with the lack of timing.
Okay, and you talked the other day about the importance. You need to do a little better on rebounding as you come through. How important are guards in that? We always talk big man with rebounding, but how important and what can you do with your guards to kind of help turn the rebounding battle your favor?
Yeah, it's everybody has a job to do, and you're graded each game on did you do your job, whether it be offensive rebounding, Did the 1 and 2 get back? 1 stopping the ball, 2 in the hole. Did 3, 4, and 5 go to the glass? Did they run to a back? So you're graded. Each guy is graded, and defensively, your job is to step back and box your man out, create a pocket, and then go attack the ball. Hard to put your finger on right now, why we had success with the rebounding piece early in the year and why it's such a gap right now for us. I don't know. It's not because it's a lack of emphasis or that we don't work on it. But for whatever reason, we are, not having great success with that right now. We're going to change our lineup a little bit and hopefully, give ourselves a little bit better opportunity with that tomorrow night.
Can you tell us what the lineup change is yet, or you holding off?
We're going to put Trevor Berkeley in and play Trevor and Aaron Holly together along with Richard. So we're going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more athletic. We don't have a whole lot of buttons to push on making changes, but I think, we'll be better defensively and we'll be better rebounding the ball. Offensively, something, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, we've got to be able to get stops and we've got to be able to rebound the ball. It doesn't really matter what we do offensively if you can't do those first two things.
Hey, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
So our next question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Coach, just shooting-wise, do you feel like you're taking the right shots, or is that something you're working on as well in practice right now?
We need to do a better job with getting more post touches, and then our ratio get to the free throw line to settling for jump shots. So, but I'm not as worried about that. Our focus has been defensively and rebound-wise. Those are things you should be able to do a better job of controlling, and that's probably the most painful thing right now is why we're not better at those two things. But offensively, if you get stops and can rebound it, you're going to have opportunities to get out and run. You're going to have better opportunities and easier shots. If you play half-court basketball for 40 minutes, it's hard at any level of college basketball. And so it starts with us at the end of the floor, and that's where our focus has been and trying to get better at.
And what stands out to you when you watch SIU and Desmar Jackson in particular?
Somebody that's unbelievably athletic, really difficult to guard off the bounce in transition. We've got to really be disciplined that we don't bite on shot fakes or jabs and be in the gaps to help whoever may be defending him one-on-one. So he's one of the better players in the conference, and he's a difficult guy. It's got to be team man-to-man defense guard defending him.
Thank you.
Great. That was your final question. Thank you for your time today, and good luck against Southern Illinois tomorrow night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Coach Paul Lusk of Missouri State joins us. The Bears playing tonight against Evansville at home. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm fine.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about Evansville, and then we'll open up for some questions.
Evansville's got a young team. They do what they do from a offensive standpoint. They run their motion about as well as anyone in the country. DJ Ballantyne is taking the next step. When you talk about being able to get 20 a night in college basketball, he's actually at 22 a game. That is very impressive. So he can score it a lot of different ways.
Thank you, Paul. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions now for you. A question from the media for Coach Paul Lusk.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Paul, I know you don't play Southern until Friday or Saturday, but if you could, last season you had one of the youngest groups in the country and kind of took some lumps early on. Do you remember what What did you do to keep them motivated in practice when you weren't necessarily winning a lot of games? How did you try to keep them successful in that mindset?
Well, I mean, I think young kids are anxious to learn. Sometimes when you're playing a young group, they tend to hit a wall. I give the example just most recently. We moved one of our young guys to the bench in Tyler McCullough, and it really helped him. He got off to a great start early in the season, and then he kind of hit a wall, and he's been better since we've moved him to the bench. Now, can he give us consistency? And then we've got a young kid, Devin Thomas, who had to play a lot against Indiana State. He was very good. Then he struggled the next game as a freshman at Northern Iowa. But I think for us last year it was just getting to break, getting to Christmas break, and then getting better, and just continuing to stay positive. But yet you've got to hold them accountable and keeping those young minds fresh. I think a lot of times it gets hard for them. I read something the other day about Andrew Wiggins, who's potentially the number one pick in the draft, and I shared it with our guys yesterday. He just said it's hard. College basketball is really hard. I've got to guard my man. I've got to jump to the ball. I've got to rebound. I've got to sprint. Those things are difficult. They can be difficult for an experienced teams at times because the season's so long. But with those young guys, you got to watch film. You got to practice. You got to stay positive with them.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Paul Swellentrop of the Wichita Eagle.
Hi, Paul. It looks like Ron Movica is a really good scorer. Is it doing the other things, the defense, the rebounding, those kind of things, that were kind of keeping him off the floor, and he's improved in those things?
Well, Paul, we obviously with some guys being out of the lineup now, we've got to go look at some different options. We knew that Ron, from day one, was a competitive kid. He's got a big, strong body. We know that he's a guy that can score it. He can make some decisions with the ball. When he got his minutes earlier in the year, when we had everyone playing, he would get in and he would really produce. He'd play 7 minutes in the first half and then really get some things done. And then as games got tighter in the second half, I didn't go to him as much. We were bringing him along slowly. Well, now we have to play him. He was exceptional the other day, scoring it. Still learning. He's learning college basketball. He's really learning on the defensive end. It's hard for him, but he's got the right attitude. But there's no doubt we need him to step up and be a guy that we can count on at that 3 spot. I think we're not very good defensively right now. Some of our better perimeter defenders are gone, and as for example, tonight it will be Dorian Williams on the perimeter, Austin Ruger, who's a freshman, who's a good position defender, and then Ron. I wouldn't say that we've got a stopper right now, so that's kind of where we're struggling, and I think Ron will continue to grow. He'll get better with reps and with game experience on both sides of the ball, just playing and getting an opportunity. But we were very pleased with his performance the other day.
Now, when you lose a couple key guys to injury, how do you talk with the team or approach the whole, next man up and let's not let this drag us down?
Just all the coaching cliches of really what you just said. It's next man up, and you can't hang your head. You have to keep staying positive. I told our media yesterday I'm actually kind of tired of talking about it. It's time to move on. Those guys, they're not coming back. One potentially may come back, but it's an opportunity for other guys. And I think the biggest thing for us, Paul, especially right after it happened, was just having the ability to have practice and work on things. And then it becomes, now you're playing some new guys and the roles have changed. Now they've got to get game experience. And they've got to grow and they've got to get better with their roles and with the minutes they're given. So we've had some productive practices since the Northern Iowa game, and just trying to move forward.
Paul, that was your final question. Thank you for joining us on a game day. Good luck against Evansville tonight.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Bonnie, do we have Coach Greg Lansing with us?
They're holding for Coach Lansing.
Okay. Indiana State plays a pair of games this week, starting with Loyola on the road tomorrow night. The Sycamores are back at home on Saturday, and they'll host Illinois State on Saturday at 5 o'clock. And we'll hold for just a moment.
Coach Simmons has joined.
Bonnie, did you say we had Coach Simmons with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's take Marty first. We'll get to Greg Lansing as soon as we can. Of course, Evansville on a game day tonight playing at Missouri State. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning.
Talk a little bit about the Bears for us. What can we expect tonight, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, obviously, Paul and his staff have done a great job putting these guys together. I think they got a lot of weapons. Got a lot of guys that can score the basketball. Obviously, the injuries to Marshall and Pickens are very, very unfortunate. They're two great players, two great guys. You hate to see that happen to anybody. But I certainly, from watching the Northern Iowa game, I think they have done what Paul seems to always do, and that's come together and rally around it. Got a great leader in Gawley. I mean, he's a warrior. He does everything. He plays really, really hard. He rebounds it. He runs. He drives it, shoots the three. And really, they played so many guys, throughout the season that I think it's really made those guys ready to step in, and they've done a terrific job.
Thank you, Marty. Let's get right to the questions for you. Questions for Coach Marty Simmons.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Coach, this is you have a long history as a player and coach in the Valley, and I wanted to ask you, at this point, what makes Wichita State unique or stands out? I mean, what is the thing that maybe is different than even the Northern Iowa teams when they were really good, or teams that you've seen in the past? What makes them unique right now?
Well, I really have not had the opportunity to see them that much this year, but I just think
as a program as a whole, I mean, Greg has established a mentality there at Wichita. I mean, those guys play really, really hard. They're very talented. They're very athletic. They've got great skill, and their fan support. I mean, just the whole thing. I mean, they've certainly done a terrific job, and I think as much as anything, just the success that they've had, nationally, and their ability to get to the Final Four and really be really close to playing for a national championship. Just all the aura surrounding it. But I think more than anything, they got really good players. They coach them really good, and they play really hard. And when you have that kind of a collective group, it makes it pretty tough to beat.
Well, thank you.
You bet.
Our next question comes from Dave Reynolds of the Peoria Journal-Star.
Hey, Marty, could you evaluate your team during conference play so far on both ends of the court?
It's been pretty inconsistent, Dave. I mean, we've been battling that. I think every coach strives for that consistent effort on both sides, of the ball, and we just continue to work at it. It's a work in progress. Unfortunately, we'd like to be further ahead. We started off with the first 3 games in the league, and really, we got it taken to us pretty good. And fortunately, our guys have responded here, and we've played much harder, we're smarter at Southern, at Illinois State, and then just had a grinded out game with Loyola. But I think we're getting better. I think we're growing, and we'll see where we're at tonight.
And if you could pick out 1 or 2 guys, maybe new players who've been pleasant surprises for your team so far, who would they be?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I think obviously Valentine has certainly had a terrific year for this. I mean, he is. We anticipated him stepping into that role, but not an easy adjustment, and he's done a terrific job. Gideus has been pretty darn consistent. 18 rebounds up at Illinois State the other night. And really all the young guys, David, they've all worked their tail ends off and have given us good contribution.
Thank you.
You bet.
Our next question comes from Harry Schrader of Valley News Insider.
Hey, Marty, they've been talking a lot about this year, the freshmen. You have 3 pretty good ones. Could you talk about your 3 young guys particularly, and even maybe other freshmen in the league that you've been impressed by?
Boy, all ours. I think they've done a great job, and like all young players, and really even old players, it's just a competitive league, and once you get into conference play, as hard as it was in a non-conference, it gets even tougher. And again, I think we're just striving to be more consistent. But Drew, Blake, and JB have all been really, really positive in their contributions to our team, and just like every year in the Valley, I think every coach in the league does a great job of recruiting, and the league certainly helps with that. And it's no different this year. I mean, just a lot of talented young players. We just had Milton Doyle, and he's as talented a young player as there probably is in the nation. I mean, just a real dynamic, versatile basketball player, and I think our league has several good players like that.
Thanks, Marty.
You bet.
Coach, that was your last question. Thanks for your time today. Good luck against Missouri State tonight.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, bye-bye. And we do have Coach Greg Lansing with us. Good morning, Coach.
Morning. Sorry, they had a little trouble on the switchboard this morning, so.
That's okay. We flip-flopped the order. Marty was playing tonight, so he's ready to go. So,
perfect.
Let's talk about your game tomorrow night, Loyola. The second time you've seen them, and then you have Illinois State this weekend. But let's focus on tomorrow night's game against Loyola in Chicago.
Yeah, Porter's doing a great job with his team. I know they've probably been a little more inconsistent than what he liked, but they're young. They're really young, and they have a lot of talent. They gave us everything we wanted here, the first league game, scoring it up 12, but it was a much closer game throughout. And, coming off getting it handed to us pretty good at Wichita, that snapped right back here and had a really good day of practice yesterday, which I knew our guys had bounced back and need another one today, and then head up to Chicago for the first time. So we're excited about it. We know it's a great challenge, but we're looking forward to it.
Thanks, Greg. Let's open it up for some questions now for you. Questions from the media for Coach Greg Lansing.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Jim Benson of the Bloomington Pantagraph.
Hey, Greg, you got a chance to see Wichita State up close. Are they just as good or maybe even better than last year?
I think they're every bit as good and probably a little better. When we had a great game with them here. It was pretty ugly later in the year, and they beat us. But when we won at their place, they weren't near what they were at the end of the year, and they were without Baker. And I just think they're very talented and very well coached and got some great depth other than maybe somebody to back up Van Fleet. But those three guards, they're so smart. They make the right plays. They play both ends. They're tremendous, tremendous leaders. So I think they're a little bit better. Granted, they went to the Final Four last year, and I'm not trying to put a bunch of pressure on them, but they're really good. And I think they're, it's Wichita and everybody else in the league.
You guys were shooting a great percentage from three going into that game. Did you feel you got good shots there, or were they really contested shots, or how do you feel your shot selection was there?
We got some good ones, but they're so good defensively, and this is what we got the switch we have to flip offensively ourselves. We've been guilty of quick shooting a little bit, but we have shot well, and we do want to play faster. But you know as well as I do, in this league, everybody's ready for you, and really good defensive teams and guys that are so well prepared, and Wichita is one of the better defensive teams in the country. We shot almost 70% within two passes or less, and you just can't do that and expect to win. And our percentage showed it, and you give Wichita tons of credit on it. But we're gonna have to work the ball a little bit harder in this league.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Harry Schrader of Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, good morning, Greg. I wanted to ask you about Milton Doyle, number one. Just thinking a lot about the year of the freshmen, both around the country, and a lot of good freshmen in the league. And then when you were here in St. Louis, you told me that SLU was the best team you guys had played up until that point. I'd like you to compare SLU with Wichita, if you could.
Really good comparison. But, yeah, Milton Doyle, I think, is going to be the freshman of the year in this league, and he's just really, really good. Obviously, Kansas doesn't recruit stiffs, and neither does Porter there at Loyola. He's just talented, can do everything. He's right up there with any freshman in the country would be my guess. And there's a lot of good freshmen in this league because staffs do such a good job recruiting. In the Missouri Valley, you can sell awfully easy. And we really like our two freshmen that we're redshirting. So both of those teams, and this is what I told the guys, we got taught a lesson on national TV twice, and it was against two of the better teams in the country. I think St. Louis is as well-schooled and as tough and as physical as anybody in the country, and they gave us a little bit of a beating there and a lesson. And then Wichita is they're really, really good. They play both ends. They have talent. They got versatile guys. They got tremendous leadership. So I think they're both very similar. I would say St. Louis is a little more physical, but I would say Wichita went in there and came back and won. So both of those, in my opinion, are both top 10 teams in the country and both very, very good. But I give Wichita just a little bit of an edge because they did win the head-to-head at St. Louis.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coach, that was your final one. Thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks, Mike.
All right. See you, Greg. Let's get next to Coach Barry Hinson of Southern Illinois. The Salukis playing Drake tomorrow night. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Let's talk about the Bulldogs, if you could. Preview tomorrow night's game, and then we'll open up for some questions for you.
Well, I think, the first thing that comes to mind is those two little guards, and they certainly have been a thorn in everybody else's paw in the league, and now they get to be a thorn in our paws. So we know coming into the game that we've got to control Carter and Daniels, and we've got to do a good job with those guys. And then you throw in, Hawley and everybody else on the floor that can shoot the basketball, and then you've got an inside presence with Van D. So, Ray's done a good job with the guys, and their offensive numbers are absolutely phenomenal, and they can score in a many ways, and certainly our liability right now is their greatest asset. So we've got to do a good job of guarding and seeing if we can control those little guys and get out to their shooters.
Thank you, Barry. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions now for you. Questions for Coach Barry Hinson.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Paul Swellentrop of the Wichita Eagle.
Barry, we talked a lot last year about Desmar Jackson and kind of some of his issues. How's he doing this year? It appears like he's playing really well. Is he, buying more into the program this year?
Well, I think he has on occasion. I don't think he has in every game, but there's no secret. As Desmar goes, so goes the Salukis, and it doesn't have anything to do with his points. It has more to do with his defense and his distribution of the basketball. When you see how Desmar plays and distributes the basketball, for example, the second half against Northern Iowa, he has 4 assists. SIU, he has 8 assists, no turnovers. We had another game this year where he had 6 assists. And we win those ball games, and it's not about him scoring. And if he'll figure out that he can dominate a game for us defensively and distributing the ball, we're a lot better basketball team. But when you take, for example, what he did at Bradley the other night, 6 turnovers and 4 shots, and just let his head get in the way, then that's we're not a very good basketball team. So he is our stock market ticker. How he goes is how we go.
Thank you.
Coach, that was your only question today.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Barry. Let's get next to Porter Moser of Loyola. Loyola playing at home against Indiana State tomorrow night and at home on Saturday against Northern Iowa. Hi, Porter.
Hey, Mike.
How are you?
Good.
Well, let's preview your game with Indiana State, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, we played Indiana State the first time, and they're just, they just find ways to beat you because, I think they're really deep. I think they're really well coached. Going into that Wichita game, they had won 11 out of 12, and they just find ways to win, and that's culture, that's coaching, that's veterans, and I look at how Odom is battling injuries. He's just a tough kid. The kid's limping, and the kid's got a concussion, and he's just a very, very tough kid. And then the other one, I think Cummings is really playing well. I think he's had double figures every single conference game. And, junior college kids do that. They really come into their own a lot of times their second year, and I think he's really hitting their stride.
Thanks, Porter. This is one of the earlier matchups in the league that has featured a second visit by both teams. So talk how, if you could, change things up. Last time you lost, the game was closer than the final score, but it was, what would you do different? What do you think Greg might do different?
Well, I wish we could put 15 pounds on every one of our post players because they beat the crap out of us. They were so physical. And I say that in a positive way, not in a legal way. They went and they just absolutely pounded us on the glass. We just got really beat up on the offensive glass, and that's what they do. So that was something that, obviously you can't give a team like that so many extra looks. They're so efficient offensively, and then you go give them, so many second chance looks. It was, they had 16 offensive rebounds in our game. And when you take a high efficient offensive team and then you give them 16 extra possessions, it's just a recipe for a not a favorable outcome. So obviously we got to do a better job on the glass with them, and that's one of the biggest, first and foremost.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up now for questions for Coach Porter Moser, questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Porter, you played Drake a couple days ago and were able to beat them. I want to ask you about Richard Carter. He's does a lot of good things for them and pretty good three-point shooter, pretty good free throw shooter. How did you go about trying to defend him?
I think he's having an all-league type of year. And, he looks and he plays like a senior who is in his last hurrah, with a lot of passion. He's got an edge to himself about refusing to lose. but he's a hard matchup because he can take you off the dribble so hard. He draws fouls. He's not afraid of contact. He embraces contact. Some kids at a younger age avoid it. He embraces it, and he gets to the foul line, and then he can knock down shots. You know, he can knock down threes. He has a nice mid-range game. He's a very hard person to guard, and combine that with the chip he's playing with, I think he's having a definite all-league type of year.
Thanks.
Now our next question comes from Harry Schrader of Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, good morning, Porter. We're talking about the freshmen around the nation and the league, and obviously Milton is having a great year and looks to be the odds-on favorite to be the freshman of the year in the league. Just tell us about, his progress, the things he's had to work on, and the growth he's had to go through.
Well, consistency is the biggest thing that you try to strive for with freshmen, and Milton's no exception. He's had some terrific games. He means a lot to us. The thing I think that the versatility is what comes to mind with Milton. I mean, he's right there with one of our top assist guys. When I took the job over here 2 years ago, one of the things that we talked about is we didn't have very many shot clock guys or guys that can create for someone else. And with the new rules of being able to more offensive freedom is helping Milton. And I think that, he can get by guys, he can create, he can pass it. He has to increase in his decision-making ability. And that's part of it. He draws a crowd, and, at times he makes spectacular assists. He leads us in assists. He's, our second leading rebounder. He leads us in steals. He leads us in points. He's tied for the amount in block shots. I mean, he does a lot for us. And here I am sitting here going, man, I want him to be more consistent. At times, he can be our best defender. But that consistency of defending also is spiked. And with any freshman, you're always just trying to strive for more consistency. I think Milton's going to be very good. I think he had an off season of gaining 15 pounds. He can carry another 20. I think he's very slender and wiry. I think his body matures and his strength, he's going to be able to embrace some contact, like we were talking about with Richard Carter. But obviously the consistency with Milton is something that we're hoping for, and it's just tough when your best player, right now he's playing the best, but he's a freshman still, and he still goes through those freshman moments. But I'm glad he's on my side.
Is that, you guys have struggled on the road, and I think I read somewhere where his splits home and away aren't, favorable. Is that part of that freshman growth process?
It is. I mean, it is. It's an experience factor. It's a maturity factor. Sometimes on the road, obviously you're going to face, adversity, and young guys sometimes don't face adversity great. That's part of being more mature as a player. Adversity comes up. Yeah, you know how to handle it. You can play forwards. Sometimes young guys play backwards. They think about the previous play, the previous two plays, and veterans don't. Veterans make a mistake. They understand it. They move on. They learn from it. And they just move on. And sometimes on the road, adversity is magnified, and you see freshmen sometimes go through that.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Coach, that's your final question. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
All right.
Do we have Coach Dan Muller with us?
Yes.
Oh, hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Let's talk about your games this week. You have Wichita State tomorrow night, and then later in the week you're at Indiana State. Let's start by previewing your game against the Shockers tomorrow night.
Yeah, there's a little feedback. I don't know if you can hear it on your end.
I don't, but I'm at an airport, so I might just be causing
there you go.
ambient noise there.
Gotcha. Okay. Wichita State coming in tomorrow night, clearly one of the best teams in the country and been the best team in the conference so far. And we've played them once, so hopefully that'll help our guys a little bit. But it's a great challenge and a great opportunity for us tomorrow night.
Thank you, Dan. Let's go ahead and open it up now. Questions for Dan Muller. Questions from the media for Coach Dan Muller.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Harry Schrader of Valley Hoops Insider.
Good morning, Dan. Been talking to the coaches about young guys, and Reggie, your center, has been growing and emerged. Talk a little bit about him and just the good streak you guys are on.
Jay Perry, thanks. Yeah, Reggie is a freshman. He started, I don't even know, 4, 5, 6 games for us, leading the league in shot blocks. He's very physical. He's got very good hands. He's got a good maturity for being a freshman, especially for a big man. He's good with the ball, and he just keeps getting better. He's got a great work ethic and practice. He likes physicality, and he just keeps getting better. He fouls a little too much, but other than that, he's doing great.
And early on, he wasn't starting and not playing quite as much. Is this helping him, like to have maybe, we talk a lot about that freshman wall that the guys run into?
It may be. He's still only playing up before last game. He's still only about 19 minutes a game, and a lot of that is because of foul trouble. There's no chance that anybody in the country fouls more than him. I can promise you that. He's averaging. He's got 5 or 4 fouls in every Valley game so far this year in less than 20 minutes on average. So some of the not starting was because I didn't want him to get in foul trouble early, but he just played his way into it, and he just got to learn not to foul as much. But because he hasn't played as many minutes, that may help him to this point.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jim Benson of the Bloomington Pantograph.
You've been bringing Deshaun off the bench the last couple games. Obviously, he went through a little bit of a slump there. Did you think that helped relax him a little bit?
I'm not sure, Jim. It might have. He struggled a little bit in the Evansville game, in the first half, but then got it going in the second half. Players just go through slumps, peaks and valleys, especially first-year guys. Hopefully, Deshaun can stay consistent now. But whatever it was, I hope he continues.
Do you anticipate just bringing him off the bench this week, or have you made that determination?
I'm not sure yet, to be honest. As you know, we've kind of rotated some of those 4 guards a little bit. I think they all deserve to start at times, but it just kind of depends on practice goes and how we feel for the game.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Brian Bloodworth of WJBC Radio.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, the first time you guys played Wichita, what are you going to have to do this game that you didn't do in that game?
Yeah, they're just so good defensively. We just forced some bad shots. Now, they make you force bad shots because they're so solid and tough on the defensive end, but our shot selection wasn't great. Our rebounding effort was actually pretty good. Defensively, we were solid. They shot it well from 3 in the first half. We were solid. I think the biggest thing is our guys just hopefully understanding the physicality that we're going to have to play against because we've already seen it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coach, looks like that was your final question. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow night.
Thanks.
Bye. Do we have Coach Gino Ford with us?
We're holding for Ford.
Okay, thank you. We'll have Gino on in just a moment. Of course, Bradley's 2 games this week features a home game against Northern Iowa tomorrow night, and then a televised game on Sunday as Bradley plays at Evansville. It's Sunday at 1 o'clock on the Valley Television Network.
Coach Ford is on.
Thank you, Bonnie. Morning, Gino.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Let's talk about your game tomorrow night against Northern Iowa. The first meeting was very lopsided at the Panthers McLeod Arena, and they played very well at home. They haven't been as good on the road. That's something to look forward to tomorrow night. But talk about the matchup tomorrow night for us.
Well, they're obviously really good this year, and they've played great at home and still played well away from home. But our game up there was non-competitive, so we'll have to be a lot better tomorrow night for sure.
Thank you, Gino. Let's open it up for some questions for you now. Questions for Coach Gino Ford.
To ask Coach a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
Coach, when we had Ben on earlier, he mentioned that you guys have been playing better defensively since that game. Can you assess his comment there? Do you agree with that?
Well, I think the numbers would back that up. I mean, we went to Indiana State and Wichita, and while I'm sure both of them missed some shots that were makeable, neither shot 40% from the field, and we have a lot of respect for those two teams, and I think they're probably the two best in the conference. So we've guarded better, but as everybody knows, defense, when you're offensively challenged, as we have been, a lot of pressure on your defense. And, we have to get them guarded tomorrow night as well as they shoot the three. That's probably our number one concern.
Thanks, Gino. Bonnie, one more queue of questions for Coach Gino Ford.
To ask a question, press star 1.
Coach, a live tape for you. Thank you for your time. Good luck against Northern Iowa tomorrow night.
No problem. Thanks, buddy.
Right,
okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Gino. All right, see you. Bye-bye. Just a minute or so ahead of Coach Greg Marshall's time slot. We'll hold for just a second until we get Greg on the line with us.
Coach Marshall is on.
Okay, there we go. We'll go ahead and get going. Good morning, Greg.
Hey.
Let's preview your game tomorrow night at Illinois State, and then we'll open up for some questions for you.
Okay. We're looking forward to heading out there to play them. I don't think they've lost since they played us last, so they're playing pretty well, and we should have our hands full.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open it up for some questions now for you. Questions from the media for Coach Greg Marshall.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Mark Berman of Roanoke Times.
How you doing, Greg?
Hi, Mark. How are you?
All right. Hey, I want to congratulations on your success so far this season. Want to ask you, has your team surprised you at all this season or exceeded your expectations, or did you kind of go into the season kind of privately thinking, I may have a real elite team in my hands here this year?
Mark, we thought we would be a good team. We thought that over a year ago, going into last season, that we would be pretty good this year. And they haven't disappointed. They've answered every challenge, and it's been a good team to coach. It's really easy to coach. They're always prepared and ready to play.
Is the strong suit to this team different than last year's Final Four team?
Is it different?
Does it beat teams in different ways, perhaps, or is it pretty much the same strong suits?
I would say similar. Last year's team may have been a little better in terms of physicality and toughness, physical toughness. This year's team is probably better able to score the basketball in a variety of ways, and they've also been more healthy this year. So, it's just it's been a deal where we've been able to not have the injury bug bite us, and so we've stayed healthy with our primary players, which was not the case last year, Mark.
Do you have a sense? I mean, obviously you do have a couple of quality wins, this season. They're eye-catching. Do you have a sense yet of can this team, is this team capable of making a run in March? Does this team have what it takes to beat other elite teams come March, say?
Does this team have the ability to beat elite teams in March? Is that what you just asked?
Yeah. Do you have a sense yet? I mean, because obviously you beat people like St. Louis. Do you have a sense yet of the potential, the ceiling for this team?
Tell me what you consider an elite team.
Well, I know you beat St. Louis this year.
Like Villanova?
Yeah, I mean, just the teams other teams you'll be facing in March. I mean, you face St. Louis, you beat St. Louis. Those are the kind of teams you could be playing in come March. Do you get a sense yet of this team's potential, this team's ceiling?
Well, we've beaten St. Louis. You just mentioned that. Yeah. I mean, tell me who else you're talking about as elite. I mean, is Virginia Tech elite?
I wouldn't say so. No.
Is Villanova elite?
Sure.
They got smacked yesterday. They were down 40 at home.
Right.
If we win these next two games this week, you're going to have us in front of them?
I would think so, yeah.
Because you had them jumping us this week.
True.
Is Tennessee elite?
I'd say you're more elite than they are.
Well, we won. I mean, they were picked third in the SEC going into the season. Alabama was picked fourth. You tell me who's elite. I mean, I'll tell you if we can compete with them.
I mean, obviously you beat St. Louis. That's a top 25 team right now. You've beaten them. I say, do you have a sense? Did that game tell you? Did other games like Tennessee tell you that I wouldn't want to play this Shockers team come March?
I think it goes without saying, Mark.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Andrew Logue of the Des Moines Register.
Coach, I was wondering, when you have the run of success you've had, do you use that as a motivation to feed off of it, or do you take the Final Fours and the wins and almost say, look, we're going to put that in the rearview mirror and go on to the next goal? Do you use success to fuel, or do you want to move on to the next task?
I think it's helped our guys. I mean, they saw that, they were able to play. I'm assuming Ohio State would be an elite team. LaSalle, Louisville, Gonzaga, and Pitt. I think those are elite teams. And we played them last year and were very successful. We were a couple possessions away from playing for a national championship. And a lot of these guys are returning, so they derive some confidence from that. We played the best schedule that we could put together this year. And we'll continue to try to put the best schedule possible together. And then the teams that you schedule have to have good years. You can't control that. You can control who you schedule and the best teams that'll play you, and then those teams have to have good years. I think that our team has derived some experience from that. But at the same time, we don't talk about the Final Four at all. That's gone. That was last year. This year's team, has to play 2 road games this week. And we know that when we go there, it'll be a festive atmosphere, and we'll have to play well.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Jim Benson of the Bloomington Pantograph.
Speaking of the road, you guys have the best road record in the country over the last 3+ seasons. What do you think are some of the reasons for that? Obviously, toughness is one of those, and having good players. But what are some of the reasons you think is behind your road success?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the primary reasons, Jim. Toughness, physical and mental toughness, as well as good players. And then, maybe the way we practice, the way we compete in practice. I'm not saying we put these guys to a torture chamber, but at the same time, we challenge them in practice. We put them through late game situations, and the winners don't run, and the losers do a little sprinting. So, there's always competition in practice, so they get used to competing, and they like to win, and they like to compete, and it's very difficult to win on the road in college basketball, as people know, but somehow we've discovered a pretty good formula to have success on the road. So we just have to keep it up. And I think these guys will continue to do the things that we've been doing, and we just got to go play well.
And for the record, I didn't leapfrog Villanova over you this week, so watch it.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, that one got me a little bit. Our old brethren, Creighton, I watched that game, and, they were up 40 on Villanova. 40.
That was something to see.
They had 35 points Creighton did with 10 minutes to go in the half. So they were on a 140-point pace at that point. And I was thinking, man, who would have to come in here to do that to us at home? But they are an elite team.
No doubt. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we get the record of what is elite and what is not.
Our next question comes from Brian Bloodworth of WJBC Radio.
SU and Wichita have always had a good rivalry, and in recent years it's heated up even more. Can you give us your thoughts on the rivalry?
Who's had a rivalry?
Illinois State and Wichita State.
Have they? Well, it's a competitive game. I guess if that's what you're saying, we like to compete against them, and they like to compete against us. So I'm sure it'll be a festive crowd, and I'm assuming that's what a rivalry is.
Greg, I think that was your final question. Thank you for your time today. Good luck tomorrow night at Illinois State.
Thanks, man.
All right, see you later. This does wrap up our weekly conference call. We'll ask the beat writers to stay on the line. We'll have a round table of our beat writers. Everyone else, please disconnect at this time.
It begins here.
Say it slowly. Wichita State is going to the Final Four.
The madness starts at the Arch. Don't miss the 2014 Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament, March 6th through 9th at Scottrade Center. Get your tickets and get to St. Louis for Arch Madness. It begins here. Show your school spirit and make all the difference. Sport your team's colors at the MVC tournament and get great seats for as little as $12 a session. Just $12. Don't miss the 2014 Missouri Valley Conference Women's Basketball Tournament at the Family Arena in St. Charles, Missouri. Show your school spirit and get your tickets now.
NCAA March Madness is coming to St. Louis. Experience it live.
Oh, brings it home.
As 8 of the top collegiate teams compete for a shot at the NCAA Sweet 16. Don't miss the buzzer beaters. As Cinderellas crash the party at the 2014 NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship. March 21st and 23rd at the Scottrade Center in St. Louis. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/MBB tickets. NCAA March